morning. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching the F&O Show on BloombergQuint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza.
Good morning, Navneet. Good morning, viewers. I'm Darshan Mehta. Here are the headlines. Market cool-off after scaling a lifetime high in opening trade. The Nifty trade is still unchanged. The volatility index has seen gains. Open interest is surging in NMDC and Power Finance Corporation. NMDC sees fresh longs, while PFC sees fresh short positions. Indian Oil Corporation is the top loser on the Nifty today. The company will be excluded from the Nifty CPSE index from Jan 24th. And results of Reliance Industries, TCS, HDFC Bank and HCL Tech failed to impress the street. All the stocks are trading with losses.
All right, so those are your top headlines at this hour. Let's quickly tell you what's happening with the markets. As Darshan highlighted in the headlines, in the opening trade itself, we did touch fresh highs for Nifty and Sensex, but it seems like a case of clear profit booking from higher levels. But point to be noted, the opening high was 12,430 for Nifty. So it's corrected almost about over 100 points in trade from the high level. So watch out if there is more selling pressure which comes about. But for the time being, we're trading above all key moving averages, at least for Nifty. Sensex also down by about 120 points. It's back below the mark of 42,000. And Nifty Bank, which underperformed all through last week, it was down 1.5% for the week. And this morning itself, after opening in the green territory, now it's corrected from those higher levels and it's down about 145 points in trade. And having said that, the volatility too has surged. Remember, in run-up to the budget session, which is on the 1st of February, you are seeing India VIX maintaining those levels of 14. So even when the markets were going up last week, we've not seen much of correction coming by for India Volatility Index. Very quickly then, for the broader markets, which have been outperforming for the last 8 to 9 session, I think this morning they too have succumbed to selling pressure. Both mid-cap and small-cap indices are trading with cuts, and the market breadth should also come up on your screen, giving you a better indicator as to what's happening with the entire listed universe, at least on the National Stock Exchange. As you can see now, in the last 15 minutes or so, declines have taken over, and now the ratio is in favor of the decline. So in terms of options data, what are the levels you should watch out for today in terms of maximum open interest? For this weekly expiry, it is at the 12,400 call and the 12,300 put strike. So that was the range we are watching out for. We already crossed the mark of 400, but there is some profit booking which is kicking. I think for the day, the next level, though the index is approaching the level of 12,300, almost there. If we breach that mark, I think that's important. But wide range, if you want to watch out for 12,200 to about 12,500 is something you should watch out. And as of now, there is call riding clearly visible at 12,400 strike, adding almost 10 lakh shares, while on the put side 300 250 strikes are quite active, Darshan. They've added between 2 to 3 lakh shares.
Yeah, and over the past few days, 12,400 and 12,500 has seen ample call writing that's coming in. The markets are finding it very difficult to cross the 12,400 mark in trade. But let's take a look at some of the stock futures and what they are indicating at this point of time in terms of open interest gainers. Powergrid shows open interest build up of 45% on the long side on the CPSE inclusion. The reverse is happening with Indian Oil, which is out of the CPSE. Open interest build up of 36%. NMDC, PFC, all of them, all the open interest gainers are in terms of what's happened on the CPSE even. So NMDC gets in, that's higher. PFC gets out, and that's lower by almost 5%. So that's the trend. And NMDC, there's another trigger also, the price hikes that they've taken. In terms of stocks which have seen open interest decline, you have Apollo Tyres, which today is seeing, long unwinding. Today, Tyres as a space is seeing long unwinding, both Apollo and MRF. TCS has reacted negatively to the numbers. Sun Pharma is down, and GMR, post all the positive news that came in today over the last 1 week, it's seeing long unwinding today.
Okay, so a lot of stocks to keep an eye on, and on the show today, of course, on back of that inclusion and exclusion in the Nifty CPSE index, we will be discussing stocks like NMDC, which has hit its fresh 52-week high after the gain that we've seen in the opening trade itself. And we've also got Powergrid, where significant increase has been seen in terms of open interest so far, and this one too has been included. While IOC has been correcting, that's been excluded, and the stocks also hit its 52-week low with the correction that has come in the opening session itself. But before we get to our guest in the show, here's a quick reminder for all of you. If you have any queries regarding the futures and options market, you can call us, in fact, now on 022-4540-4141, or write to us on our social media platforms, Twitter, YouTube, with our SpeakU hashtag.
Okay, let's welcome our F&O experts for the day. Abhijit, Phatak of Define Edge Solutions and Navneet, Daga of Securities are joining us on the show. Many thanks to both of my guests for joining me today. Navneet, I'll start with you. Good morning. What's the trend? Today the market is slightly weak. Overall, what have you told your clients in terms of the Nifty and the Bank Nifty? How should they be positioned and what's the strategy there?
Well, hi, good morning. Look, it's been the kind of a contrasting trend where we have seen the Bank Nifty underperforming almost 7 to 8 trading sessions in the last 7 to 8 trading sessions to the benchmark Nifty. And there's been a pocket of resistance which has been seen visible at 12,400 levels. We have not been able to cross that kind of a level, and neither we have seen a major spike in the walls on the downside as well. So it's been in it's stuck in within the band of that 100 points or 12,300 to 400. But to my understanding, the kind of a preemptive move that we have seen from the Bank Nifty is making me believe that some kind of a downside is possible in the markets, and we are expecting a level somewhere to 12,250 to 12,200 again getting retested on the Nifty levels before the budget event levels. So it would be a good healthy corrections on the downside, but overall trajectory on the market on the medium term, it's look likely that on the dips, if we buy on the dips, it would be a merit strategy, and looking likely that unless we cross above the 12,400, major longs should not be created beyond that levels.
Okay, so that's the call on Nifty. Remember, the long-term view, majority of the analysts have been highlighting, is on the upside. Hi, Abhijit. Good morning to you, and thanks a lot for joining us. Would you use these corrections as a buying opportunity? We opened above the mark of 12,400, but there was clear sign of profit booking which came in. We've corrected sharply now. Would you take any bet on the upside at current levels?
No, right now, like I said, Nifty is at a very crucial resistance near 12,420, 30 on the futures. And unless that is crossed, any fresh longs is out of question. I would look to short and right. And for the simple reason that market is very overstretched and it needs to cool down a bit, maybe in terms of time correction, if not a price correction. So maybe up to 12,200 or even 150. But I would not go short at these levels, but short and right with the stop loss about 12,440 on futures. And then there are some specific stocks which again are at the top, like Maruti is one short which I'm looking at with a stop loss of 75.50. I expect it to go towards 74.50. And one long NMDC which has shown strength. So that is a buy on dip with a stop loss below 128. And I expect that to go towards 140, 145.
Okay, Abhijit, Navneet, I believe Abhijit has told his stocks. Firstly, on your stock and also your strategy, because I believe you have a bear put spread on the index itself, on the Nifty. So you'll need to explain to that. But before you do that, I'll just put in a word what it means. A bear put spread is achieved by purchasing a put option at a specific price, which is also selling the same number of puts with the same expiry date at a lower strike price. The maximum profit using this strategy is equal to difference between the two strike price minus the net cost of the option. So Navneet, what strategy are you suggesting in terms of the Nifty? Which are the strike prices that you should target in this bear put spread?
There's a little correction in the strategy. It's a bear put ratio spreads. On the ratio spreads, I'm using 1:2 quantity, whereby I'm buying in 12,400 at the money kind of an options, and on the monthly series of Nifty, and simultaneously selling 2 lots of 12,250 on the lower strike on the monthly put options. The current spreads in the range of around 5 points that we are getting it as an outflow. To my understanding, as I explained, that I'm looking out for a mild correction in the market, basically a retracement towards the 12,250 to 12,000 zone, 12,200 zone, and that's where the maximum profit area and the strategy would be at 12,250. And on the upside, if the event doesn't, if we happen to expire anywhere about 12,400, we have got a fixed loss of almost 5 points. So the strategy would be largely profitable if we see a minor retracement towards the 12,250 odd zone. I'll keep a strict stop loss in the strategy, largely at a lower break-even point, which starts at somewhere near to 12,100 levels on the Nifty. So that's where the larger trend will start to be on the downside.
Okay, that's a bear put ratio spread being advised by Navneet on Nifty on the monthly series. All right, Navneet, but having said that, that's your strategy for the index. In terms of individual stock futures, then what are you recommending in trade?
Look, there's a pockets of strength as well as pocket of weakness which has been visible in the market. So my strategy would be one long stock and one short stock. One long stock would be from the auto pack, which is like of Ashok Leyland. It's been in the overall sideways range between that 80 to 85 mark. It has given us some kind of a consolidation breakout with a higher volumes. To my understanding, the momentum likely to be positive on the upside, and the kind of if we are seeing a strength even in the falling markets, give me a confidence in saying that the stock can see a more upside from here on as well. So my entry range on the Jan futures would be in the range of somewhere into 80 to 85 to 85.50 50 paisa range, and on the upside I'm looking at a target of somewhere into 92, and on the downside I'll keep a strict stop loss if the stock negates below that 83 odd mark. That's where one should keep a strict stop loss and exit out of this trade. The second stock would be on the short side idea, which is like of a continuation of a trade. We've been recommending Z as a short idea, and looking likely that Z is likely to continue its downtrend with higher volumes and giving a mild breakdown chances of below the 275 mark as well. So my positional target on Z on the short side would be somewhere into 216, and the stop loss should be kept at 286 on the upside if the stock negates that kind of a trend.
Okay, so those are some individual stock ideas coming from both our experts. I'll just revisit. So Navneet has given a long call on Ashok Leyland, a short call on Z futures, while Abhijit has given a short call on Maruti and a long call on NMDC futures. And NMDC was one stock that we also wanted to discuss since it's trading at its 52-week high. That gets included in the CPSC Nifty aware of January 24th. And precisely that's the reason why you are seeing such moves coming about in a lot of these PSU. And such stock is also Powergrid, which has gone up in trade. In fact, there is a significant increase that has come in for Powergrid futures. If you could just pull up, the stocks also gained, by the way, 10% so far in this month. And pulling up the futures, 45% increase in just 45 minutes of trade. That's a significant increase. The stock's up about 4.5%. Abhijit, you've already given a buy call on NMDC, but would you also buy Powergrid after the increase that we've seen on both price as well as open interest front?
Yes, Powergrid also is looking good, and as long as it is above 200, it can be bought on dips, not at these levels. But at the same time, there is a resistance near 210, 215. So again, this might be range bound, and if Nifty becomes weak in the sense starts correcting, it might be a bit risky buying at high. So it's better to buy at supports rather than at high.
Navneet, what's your sense on these two stocks, NMDC and Powergrid? How should one play them?
So look, NMDC after this recent run up, to my understanding, I'll not be again chasing out with this stock, but somebody is holding on to it, just keep on trailing on stop losses. But Powergrid, to my understanding, it just started to give me an assumption that it's starting a fresh up move. The kind of, and after this kind of a news announcement, the kind of a build-up that we have seen on the charts is looking likely that there's a chances that we might find a lot of support zone in the range of 202, 203 range, today's low range. That's where likely to held out and a support zone. If that has not been violated, to my understanding, there's a fresh renewed buying interest likely to come into the stock, and we might see a levels of somewhere near to 212 to 215 levels on the upside to as an exit trade in this strategy.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in. Also a view on Indian Oil, if you have that, counter is also seeing fresh shorts because of exclusion of the CPSC index. It's down 3%, recover from the day's low. But Navneet, how will you play Indian Oil?
Look, IOC, I'll say that it's looking like it's terribly weak. Overall, the trend setup, even in the kind of not the news flow that we have seen, the stock has been trending down, even in the rising markets, giving an indication a lot of lack of interest in terms of a long formation. The major support zone for the stock, as in that's where is likely to find a lot of support zone, is somewhere into 110 odd levels. So to my understanding, I'll not catch a falling knife. It's looking likely that there is a chances that it can grind towards a level of 110 and then start to find some kind of a stability in the price move. Overall understanding that stock trading below 122 zone is likely to be weak and likely to continue towards a downtrend journey. Any rise on the upside towards a level of 120 to 122 should be used as a selling opportunity in this web.
Okay, that's IOC for you. While that's trending lower in trade, but BPCL is one of your top Nifty gainers right now, and that stock's gained about 2 to 2.5%. Okay, just want to highlight the top F&O loser right now. That's your L&T Finance Holdings, which is also reacting to its numbers, which were weak for the December quarter. The disbursements growth was just about flat, and you did see AUM growth, which was largely weak. It just grew by about 5% on year-on-year basis, and there are clear signs of fresh shorting that you're seeing. The stock's down 5%, open interest increase of 8%. Abhijit, it's been trading above all its key moving averages. That's the simple moving average. But do you take any fresh bet on the downside with the 5% correction that we're seeing on L&T Finance?
No, L&T Finance has a good support near 118, 119. So any fresh shots at these levels might be a bit risky. It might give a pullback. In fact, if someone wants to do some scalping, maybe one can go long now with a stop loss below 118, maybe for a 2, 3 or 4 rupees pullback. But it is, of course, not strong, but I'm just talking about the intraday pullback.
Okay, let's take some of the viewer queries that we've come in. Mahesh Sharma has a query in which he has 2 lots of Reliance 1600 call at 24.20. Let's pull up the call and see what exactly it's doing. And Reliance probably has not, it's at 11 rupees 6. So he's not losing much at this point of time. Abhijit, Reliance 1600 call, what's your ideal view?
Historically has a very big tendency to gap up after good results and go all the way down. In fact, most of the times it gives a short-term top after good results. So any long at this position in Reliance are definitely ruled out. And it should be, I mean, if he gets near to his cost, he should exit it. So I don't expect Reliance to, because again, it had opened near the resistance of 1600, 1620. So I wouldn't advise any fresh longs in Reliance at this stage. He should exit if he gets closer to his cost.
Okay. Abhijit's not recommending any fresh long positions. In fact, if you're getting your cost, do exit at those levels. Also remember, it had gone in with gains into its earnings. The stock was up nearly 3% in Friday's trade. Okay, let me take a query on Glenmark, and this one comes in from Harshvardhan. He's bought call option of Glenmark. That's the 340 call strike, I believe. It's in the money. The stock's been trading around the levels of 350, 355. Navneet, I don't know the entry level, but what's the call in Glenmark if somebody is sitting with 340 call?
Look, to my understanding, if somebody is in the money call, one should just trade a stop loss. To my understanding, until the stock is breaking below the 350 odd mark, you should continue to ride on the upside. Overall, pharma index has given a kind of a mild breakout on the upside. We have seen the side counters started to participate. The greater chances that the risk rewards have been favorable in the entire pharma pack. So, to my understanding, you just continue and trail your stop losses higher, and being on the long side, still a long one to go. Almost 10 days left for the expiry. So, the greater chances that we might see renewed buying interest coming back in the pharma stock. So just a trail stop loss at 350 levels of Jan futures. So if started to trade below that level, you should look to exit in that case.
Okay, Venkat Sai has a doubt on the Nifty Bank. Now he's bought the Nifty Bank 31,600 call at 280 rupees. Should he wait or should he exit? He bought it at 280. The price is 200 right now. So he's losing money. Navneet, what should he do? Should he wait or exit the Nifty Bank 31,600 call?
Look, as I explained, the first part is basically the Nifty Bank was the first one indicating that basically the markets are started to give the feeling of correction in the market. So it's almost 7 to 8 trading sessions now. We have seen an underperformance of the Bank Nifty towards the Nifty, and we after the results of after the heavyweight results likes of HDFC Bank, it has seen a minor correction again coming back into the market. So to my understanding, there's chances of 31,500 if it holds, and you might get an exit price towards your entry price towards 280 odd zone in the call price, but look to exit in any rise that you are getting, and keep on the downside. If it started to give a close below 31,500 levels, you should look to immediately exit, because in that case you lose on the time value as well as on the theta value.
Okay, and remember, Nifty Bank has been underperforming Nifty for the last week or so. Just want to highlight few stocks. So keep an eye on Bharti Infratel. That's seen some recovery after tumbling nearly 8 to 9% on Friday post the AGR verdict. So that's almost at the highest point of the day. And you've also got Apollo Hospitals, which has touched its fresh 52-week high today. Of course, it was trading at its 52-week high, but there is incremental buying interest probably that's visible on these two stocks. But we've got a query coming in on Adani Ports, and this one comes in from Karan Pabrai. Abhijit, he wants to know if we should look to buy the futures of the current series, that's the January series. The stock slipped below its simple 200-day moving average. Would you advise someone to buy at these levels?
No, like I said, if at all first of all, Nifty is at resistance, so I wouldn't recommend any fresh long. So same is true for Adani Port, and especially since it was not showing strength. So definitely not any fresh longs. It had resistance near 400, so I wouldn't go to any fresh longs at this stage.
Okay, the other stock that I want to highlight has seen a sharp correction and then probably moved at that level is Axis Bank. It's trading rather weak in today's session. What's your sense, Abhijit? Axis Bank, it's not down massively, but significantly off the day's high. What's your chart reading on Axis Bank?
Axis Bank is completely range-bound for the last almost, I think, 2 months between 720 and 770. So he should use these ranges to play, like go long near the support and go short near the resistance. And on breakout, let's say it crosses 770, I suspect it will do that only after the results. It might, maybe they are waiting for the results. So till then, it is a range-bound action. 710, 720 support, 760, 770 resistance.
Okay, let me take Gaurav's query on IOC. Navneet, I'm going to come to you. He sold IOC 125 call at a premium of 1.9, so he's written that. And simultaneously, he's also bought a 132.5 strike after paying a premium of 0.5. He's indicating that he's making money right now. Would you advise him to book profits?
Well, I'd advise him to stick to that trade. Largely, I've explained my view on IOC. It's looking like that the stock is trading below the 122 odd zone. It's making me feel that the stock is heading towards a much lower level. The greater chances that since he has written the near the money calls, and that's where he's likely to make a lot of larger amount of profit. So, to my understanding, I'll place a stop loss at 122 on the Jan futures. If the trades reverse above that level, then it does not make sense to carry the kind of a trade, because still in the money, and largely the greater chances that we'll have much more gain in terms of a theta value going into the fag end of the expiry week. So to my understanding, just hold on to that trade and wait for the downside levels to book in the profit in that case.
Okay, some views on the IT space, TCS and HCL Tech. Lalit Khare wants a view on the 2160 TCS put. How does that look? Navneet, you can take this one. 2160 put of TCS. At this level, what should one do?
Look, after the result reaction, we've seen almost a 2% kind of a downtake in the first day. To my understanding, the greater chances that this downside momentum is likely to continue, and we see this kind of an TCS normally follows the kind of a momentum that it gains in a week start of a week. So to my understanding, just hang on to that trade if you're being on the long on the put option 2160. It has seen a mild kind of a breakdown about that below that level of 22 somewhere near to 2180 odd mark. There's greater chances that if we sustain below that kind of a mark, we can see one more round of selling pressure accentuating, and overall view on the index as well, to my understanding, is looking likely on the downside. So one can hang on to this trade and wait for probably levels of somewhere near 2140 to book profit in this kind of a trade.
What about HCL Technologies, Navneet? Would you advise buying any call option there?
Look, it has seen a massive up after this big kind of a candle that we have made in the intraday bar. It doesn't look like that you should get another big follow-up move on the upside again back. So the HCL Tech has normally got a tendency to go sideways after the big announcement of the result reactions. So to my understanding, it does not merit that one should look to enter into the call option, because you can lose on the time value as well. But to my understanding, it's a kind of a wait and watch kind of a stock, whereby if you started to trade above again that 600 mark, then it makes sense to make a fresh entry, and on the lower side is the greater chances that it can again retest this kind of a support zone or somewhere near to 560 odd levels. That's where you should get a much more lucrative to enter into the long positions in that case.
Okay, that's HCL Technology. Surprisingly, the stock stumbled after a good set of numbers. The brokerages are quite gung-ho about it, but the stock seems to be correcting in today's session. Pull up Tata Motors. Remember, we've been highlighting how the stock's recovered from its lower levels that we had seen closer to 109, 110 rupees. And now, today, I think for a brief period, it was also trading above the mark of 200, which has been a big resistance, I guess, for Tamo for a really long time. Abhijit, the move that we've seen on Tamo in the last 1 to 3 months, and now trading very close to the mark of 200 as well. Would you advise taking any bet here?
It is range bound between 185 and 200, and it needs a good breakout above 200. It is definitely bullish. So as long as it is above 180, one can still buy on dips with the stop loss below 180, 175, but not at these levels. And hope that it breaks out above 200. The problem is if someone buys it here, the stop loss is very far up. So wait for a dip and go along with the stop loss below 180. And I expect that to go towards 220 at some point, maybe this month or next month.
That's Tata Motors. Let's see whether it trades for a long time above the mark of 200. That's something we've not seen. It's been facing resistance every time it touches that mark. I also want to pull up Lupin. I guess that's corrected over 3% in trade right now. The stock is trading around the levels of 740 or thereabouts. Yep, it's at the lowest point. Navneet, come in here. What are the charts indicating? Is there any breakdown that you're seeing?
Look, Lupin has been the most laggard in the entire pharma large cap space, and it's looking likely that the downtrend momentum, that even as a mild small pullbacks, are likely to be sold off into the stock. So to my understanding, I'll avoid anything on the being on the long side on this stock, and in fact look to be on the fresh short positions if it started to trade below the 740 odd mark. That's where the greater chances that the trend will start to accentuate on the downside, and to my understanding, again a retest or somewhere in the levels of 710 to 700 is possible in the stock. So being a sell and rise kind of a stock, or if it started to trade below the 740 mark, being at a fresh short entry price as well, one can look for this trade, this short term medium term trade.
Okay, Navneet and Abhijit, thank you so much for speaking to us on BloombergQuint. If you have more updates on the F&O space, you can check our website, BloombergQuint.com. You'll find all the information there.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the F&O Show. Thanks a lot for watching it. Stay tuned to BloombergQuint for more news and updates.